All right, welcome into the first episode of 2025 of My Curious Mind podcast. You have your host, me, Mr. J, along with my beautiful wife, Brandis, where today we're going to talk about some of the big stories of 2024 and also in the podcast episode talking about some big stories that we think may happen in 2025. So let's go ahead and get started with the first story.
Okay, well, our first story comes from July 21st of 2024, and it is involving President Joe Biden, who is the incumbent president of the United States. This is when he announced his withdrawal from the 2024 United States presidential election, and he then endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris as his replacement. What are your thoughts about him dropping out?
Uh, I personally think he dropped out kind of late. It was probably selfish reasons, power, all the things people probably do when they're in control and they're on top. His age definitely, to be honest, people that support him weren't very objective. I think the debate was very alarming and shocking, even for some of his closest supporters. I think we were all able to see on a national stage that he slipped. He was slipping, as they said. He looked like he did not have it. He looked off from the minute that he walked on the stage. And I personally don't want to sound like I'm pounding down on someone for older age. I support people of older age working as long as they can, but he definitely seemed like he didn't have his fastball at that debate. And if you go back in history, he's never been a great debater, but he wasn't even an okay debater. And it really looked bad. So it didn't shock me when he dropped out. Like I said earlier, I think he waited kind of late, and it probably doomed the Democrats in the long run. What do you think about it?
I mean, I totally agree. But also, viewers, let's be clear. This is in no way saying what our political views are and who we supported and who we don't support. Okay. But I do agree. You can definitely see that he wasn't as sharp as the last time that he ran. He even became a meme in so many instances where you can see him staring into space or appearing incoherent or sick. So I definitely don't think it came as a surprise. I think it was a good thing that he dropped out of the election. I only wish that he would have done it sooner, because it was very late if he was going to endorse Kamala Harris. Which brings us to our second point, our second major thing that happened in 2024 that we'll be discussing, which was Kamala Harris becoming the Democratic presidential nominee when Joe Biden dropped out. What did you think about
Um,
it?
it wasn't shocking. Actually, when he first dropped out, you had a lot of people in the Democratic side that wanted I think what they call a open convention, where basically you go to the convention that week and you have the delegates pledge whichever candidate they want to support, and you hash it out there at the convention. And at the end of the week, the person that wins, that gets the most delegates, I guess they give that convention speech. I personally don't think that would have been a good thing, because it just would have taken longer for the person to be the nominee to get an opportunity to run against former President Trump. And also, what a lot of people may not realize, within those campaign monies that the Biden Harris campaign collected, based on the campaign laws in the Democratic Party, they couldn't take that money and give it to another person. So it almost had to be Harris to have access to all of those millions and hundreds of millions of dollars that have been collected. Because if she doesn't take the nomination, the other person is starting from ground zero. You're going to have a lot of political pundits that will probably say uh, an open convention process would have been better, allowing the delegates at that time to pick during that week and allow the potential candidates to give their speech and their push for being the party's nominee. But I think it happened the best way it could possibly happen. The bad thing is that if Biden would have stuck to his word when he said he was a one-term president and allowed Kamala, did I say it right?
Mhm.
Give her the full time to run, or whoever ended up getting the nomination allowed them to get the full time run. I think it would have been better.
Mhm. I agree. I agree. So, our next story, which may have been just as big as the presidential debate and election, if not bigger, unfortunately so, involves Sean P. Diddy Combs, Puff Daddy, Diddy, whatever you want to call him. It was in September 16th of 2024, that he was arrested and charged with what the Justice Department called a years-long scheme to sexually abuse and exploit women. Um, this had allegedly been going on for years, and apparently he was using his business empire to commit such crimes. What are your thoughts on this situation?
This is probably another event that, I mean, if you're connected to the legal system or you follow entertainers or just people in a public eye, you could probably see something like this happening. It definitely shocked me the amount of allegations or charges against him.
Mhm.
Um, and you even have some experts basically saying that if he wasn't so narcissistic and had settled the Cassidy case much sooner, maybe these charges didn't come out in 2024, and maybe this isn't happening. All types of other conspiracies, basically saying it's the issue with the liquor company. He was kind of going at them. So, like I said, a lot of other things out there that are, people are using to justify why this happened. But if you do sick things, you deserve, bad
Absolutely.
and to go to jail. I personally, I'm no legal expert, but I do feel like maybe some of his charges are kind of extra add-on charges. And it'll be interesting as we get more into 2025 to see, are some of those charges going to drop, or will there be more charges, or what happens with that? But I have no sympathy for P. Diddy or anyone that does bad stuff like that.
And I think you make a good point. One of the things that we've got to stop doing in our communities, Black communities, American culture, whatever you want to call it, is stop glorifying a person just because they're rich or they're famous and acting like they're above penalty for when these things do come out. I'm sorry, I don't care how rich you are, how famous you are. If in fact you are convicted or proven to have been involved in something like this, you get whatever you get. And that's just all it is to it. Now, I'm not going to say whether or not I think that he did it or did not do it. What I will say is, when I saw a separate situation involving Cassie, his former girlfriend, and the domestic situation that he was in with her, it was just utterly despicable. And I will say also the fact that he paid, I believe it was around $30 million or something like that, to settle that. A lot of times, innocent people aren't giving up $30 million, even if you have it to give up. Um, so yeah, I am. We'll see how this plays out. Whatever happens, happens. All we can do is continue to pray for those that are around him, because, as we know, they're affected as well by his alleged actions. So we'll stay tuned and see what happens with Diddy.
I agree.
Okay. Our next top story of 2024 was another one of tragedy, involving Brian Thompson, the CEO of the major insurance group United Healthcare. Sadly, he was shot to death at point blank range in Manhattan in December of 2024.
Um, this incident, the what happened after the the healthcare United Healthcare employee was shot shocked me.
Mhm.
Regardless of where you stand on the political aisle, or if you're independent, or you just don't care about our binary system of politics we have in the United States, everyone
Mhm.
in some form or another is impacted by healthcare. I
Right.
myself have made a million complaints about healthcare over the years that I put in so much in the system and I often take out so little, but I feel like I get penalized the most. And you and I have had 100 conversations about that. Um,
Absolutely.
but with this particular situation, my heart goes out to his family. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but what was sad to see, people use this as an opportunity to demonize the individual, the man that was murdered, rather than
Mm-hmm.
demonize the system of healthcare we have here in America. Regardless of what you think about United Healthcare or the healthcare system, he didn't deserve to die. And I don't like
Absolutely.
how the murder, Luigi, I believe it's his name, first name,
Mm-hmm.
how you have a lot of people like really spotlighting him as he's a hero. He's like a martyr or
Yo, that's crazy.
of that nature. And it's kind of weird that people do stuff like this. So I find it, disheartening that people are that insensitive to do that.
Right. It is disheartening. I agree with you that someone's loved one that was killed, but just playing devil's advocate, it's never okay to end someone's life. But what I will say is the reason why people have become so callous and things like that is because the people are tired. People are tired of working as long as they're working and trying to do things the honest way. Insurance declines and denies their claims, and when you go and you want to file something, you still have to pay more money. It's like, well, what am I paying this premium for if I'm still paying more? But then you see some people who, I would say, abuse the system. They might not have private insurance, and they, it's no big deal. Where the rest of us are left to pay for it. But and also you have these people who have pre-existing conditions. You may have a 3-year-old who has cancer. They didn't deserve to have cancer. So should they not have health care because they can't afford treatment? So it is a very convoluted situation that I can understand people absolutely being tired. But I don't by any means think that it's okay to accept someone losing their life just as collateral damage because we're frustrated. Not to mention, it's really not going to solve anything. The healthcare system is not, because of this one incident, going to change everything. I really don't think it's going to change anything, quite honestly. But I
Yeah,
will say it also shines a light, or it should shine a light, on how the top people of all these companies are making millions and millions and millions. And then the little worker bees, and I have no problem with wealth. I love nepotism. I love generational wealth. I love all of those things. And I don't begrudge anyone for being wealthy. But it is a bit frustrating when you're one of the people that's working and you've done everything the quote unquote right way, and you're not seeing the same level of financial gain as those who may not have done it. And there's
you know,
such a huge gap between wages.
this story, just like a lot of stories in America, it has a lot of different layers to it. The thing I struggle with is when people often put them all together. And those, what we just talked about, that may be 5 or 6, 10 different layers within
Hmm.
one story. Because you can be outraged at the healthcare system, but have some compassion for the life that was lost. Because
Absolutely.
if we are
Absolutely
turning that
true.
way, what's to say, like, I'm in education, a person one day deciding, hey, I think educators or teachers are just horrible people.
Right.
Maybe hit one of them with a car. You know,
Right.
it sounds bad and would be awfully, I mean, extremely tragic. But if we allow and we give an okay for people to think like this about the murder of this healthcare
Right.
individual, we're open Pandora's box to a lot of other things, because we know there's a lot of crazy or mentally ill or just evil people
Yeah,
here who do some things like
absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. Well, story number 5 of 2024. We're going to spin a block and come back to Sean P. Diddy, Puff Daddy Combs. And this story involves a young woman who alleges that she was sexually assaulted by Diddy. and she amended her lawsuit to include allegations that she was also sexually assaulted by Jay-Z at that same party.
You know, this one was shocking, but it shouldn't have been shocking because I mean, some months prior, a Houston-based lawyer, I think it's Tony Busby, who's a known, very high-profile, known lawyer. I watched an interview with him on Stephen A. Smith's podcast, where he mentioned at the time that there are some big names that will be dropping in some of these lawsuits. He mentioned that at the time Puff Daddy was charged, they set up a hotline that within 24, 48 hours or 72 hours, thousands and thousands of people will call on the hotline saying, hey, this happened to me such and
Right.
such year ago, so on and so on. So he said he was basically going through all of those cases to see if they have any merit. He chose this particular lawsuit. It's the first one to bring. Now, there's two sides of this. Jay-Z is alleging that prior to this becoming public, that Tony Busby's law firm was basically trying to shake down, basically saying, hey, if you don't want this to come out, uh, do some mediation, maybe pay this fee that we're asking for, then this doesn't come out. And Jay-Z basically said, which if he's innocent, I wish a lot of people would do this, say, I didn't do this and call you a bluff. And now Jay-Z is basically saying, take it to criminal court. I wanted to go to criminal court. And another layer to this, that based on it being a sexual crime, that this person is name and likeness is protected, and they're just referred to in the lawsuit, I blank, as Jane Doe. I do think when allegations like this are brought against you, you definitely should know who your accuser is. Maybe not the entire general public should know, but you as the individual should definitely know. And I don't know if you know, she recently did an interview back before the end of the year on MSNBC, where even in the interview there were some interesting holes in her story. And there's even audio of the dad basically talking about he doesn't remember the night in question she talked about. And if something
Mhm.
like that had occurred, he would know that and he wouldn't forget that. And another interesting fact is that the friend that drove her and dropped her off in New York City at those outside that award show that year is passed away. So she, you kind of don't have another person to verify your claims, but I think it's definitely something that we'll see and talk about in 2025 even more.
So I think that's one of the fortunate and unfortunate things about our society is that we have the right to sue or allege anything that we so choose, right? And it's a good thing because in times where it is the truth, people deserve justice. The bad thing is that it makes a lot of these people who are high profile, it makes them targets for extortion, financial gain, all of these things. Now, I don't in any way want to victim blame or say whether it happened or whether it didn't. I was not there, but I do think that it opens up um a can of worms for famous people. Anybody can say at any time that just because a person is rich, they did whatever, when in fact when these same things may be happening to, I don't know, let's say the Target cashier, and they don't necessarily voice it because either A, they feel like no one will believe them, or sometimes B, what am I going to gain in doing so?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Like I said, if he's guilty of it, I feel the same way. Like with P Diddy, he deserves
Lock
his
'em up.
punishment. But also, I mean, we have to take it to the court of law. And if the things that are being alleged against the individual, if they're not adding up, if they're not stories to back them up, individuals to back it up, I mean, we got to kind of look at it and be realistic about what is being accused or what they're saying.
Now, is this the young lady that is special needs or maybe has some type of cognitive disability, or
I
am I getting that
believe
story confused?
I believe at the time she was 13. Now she's about 38. I believe she is autistic based on the MSNBC report I saw. If unless I'm making some mistakes, I believe they did mention that. They kind of uh, didn't play her real voice, and they basically blacked out her face, so you really didn't see her or anything like that. But
Which,
yes,
if
I
in fact that is the case, and we do have the young lady correct that we're speaking about, it will be interesting to see how people try to spin that as it pertains to the allegations, because autism doesn't always affect intellect. So, but
no.
I know that some people will try to use that to say, she doesn't know what happened, or those types of things. Well, well, well. Okay, so yeah, something else about that.
No, I'm ready to get to the next one. I'm curious what
Right.
next.
So we're talking about former president, soon to be president again, Donald Trump, when he was the target of an assassination attempt at a Pennsylvania rally back in July. I guess it was a hot boy summer that summer. People were losing their minds trying to assassinate the former president.
This one was shocking. I think in my lifetime, let's see, I was born in '79. The Reagan assassination attempt, excuse me, happened. I was very young, so I had no true memory of that. But outside of that, this is the only other assassination attempt, I believe, unless I'm wrong, in our lifetime of a president. And you
Mhm.
think about all of the security, the CIA, the movies that you watch that talk about all the CIA training and all these this limousine the president rides around in, and people that'll take a bullet for the president. And I've been to a campaign rally myself when I was in undergrad school. I remember Vice President Gore at the time was running to become president, and I remember seeing all of the helicopters and all the stuff they did prior to letting people in the site for the campaign rally. So I was definitely shocked to see something like this. Whether you agree with Trump or you're for him politically, you don't want to see nothing like this happen. I personally don't, and I think
Mhm.
it's a bad thing for all of America when something like this occurs. So. Um, I don't know. It was just a bad look. Like I said, it wasn't a good thing for it to
But
happen.
the whole situation was just weird. Like, how people saw the gunman before that, and I believe he was a registered Republican, and it was weird. I was waiting for even more details to come out about the situation that we never got, but it was just a weird thing. And even some conspiracy theorists are saying that Trump actually knew that that was going to happen and it was planned. I don't know. That's just what some conspiracy theorists are saying.
Yeah, I'm not. We talk all the time. I'm not a big conspiracy theorist person. We'll do a podcast one day about that. My opinions. I can go deep into a rabbit hole. Because all to me, conspiracy theories are basically just lazy attempts to give a rationale to an issue. That's what I think it is. Because I can walk around all day and come up with all these top-notch conspiracy theories because I made them up in my head that really don't mean anything. But like I said earlier, I'm glad he wasn't murdered. I hate that it happened. It's a bad look,
Mhm.
regardless of
Mhm.
what you think about Trump. It's a bad look because if he's murdered, they'll murder another potential president. So we don't need that to happen.
Well, the people didn't get the memo that it's a bad look, because a couple months later in September, while Donald Trump was playing golf at the Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach, Florida, he was the target of a second alleged assassination attempt. So Secret Service agents opened fire when this happened. So the people were not feeling Trump in 2024.
Again, it looked bad. Optics are bad. I personally think this happening the second time probably increased the chances and probably what helped elect President Trump. Um, because you had a lot of people basically feeling like someone or something or a group of people or whatever, for whatever reason, are out to get Donald Trump. And
Mhm.
again, like I said earlier, whether you like him or dislike him, regardless what your political ideology is or isn't, you should never want this to happen. You know, it's
Right.
like an athlete. When I play basketball, and I used to play basketball, I want my opponent to be at full strength. I don't want my opponent to be weak because when I beat them, it makes me feel better when I beat them at full strength. So politically, you should want the people that you oppose to be at full strength. You shouldn't want an assassination attempt to weaken them or to kill them to get out of a race. And I'm often horrified, or I was horrified when you would hear people say, like, hey, they should have got him, or you know, I wish they would have injured him. It's kind of
Mhm.
dumb, but it just goes to the political landscape here in America and what's often wrong with our binary two-party political system. But I'm glad
Mhm.
that they got the crazy person in the bushes. I just hope we fix this problem. It doesn't happen to Trump or any other political leader that they have to be in this position.
Mhm. Well, you did reference basketball, which is interesting because that is our last point of 2024 was when the Lakers selected Bronny James, who is LeBron James' son, at number 55. And everyone went crazy. They were talking about nepotism and all of those things, and how he might not should have gotten selected. What are your thoughts?
Um, I've watched a lot of basketball, like a lot of basketball and sports in general over the years, and I have personally, in all of my years of watching sports, have never witnessed people get so upset about a draft pick or it being such a hot topic issue. Let's remember, he was selected second round, 55th pick. That's not really known as a pick that people really look at to do anything. It's just a pick. A person that is selected 55th is usually a G League player that often gets cut. They'll play on the summer league team. They generally don't make a roster. They may play in the G League. They may go overseas. So people getting so in their feelings and so upset because of, let's call it what it is, nepotism. I personally don't have a problem with nepotism. Um, LeBron James was in a position to convince the Lakers or to hold it over the Lakers' head to say, hey, if you want me to stay and play at a high level, I could do it. If you draft my son, I'd be happier when I do it. Um, I don't have a problem with that. Nepotism is something that's been current since beginning of time. I personally will say
Absolutely.
if I'm in a position for our two kids to make a come up and I can hire them or put them on, I'm definitely going to do it. And
Absolutely.
I'm going to sleep really well at night. Matter of fact, I'm probably going to sleep better knowing that I was able to do that for my kids. But on the other hand, I get why people are upset with nepotism. I mean, I understand it. I don't fully agree, but there's two sides to every story. Often if you're not in a position to do that, you're going to be mad about it.
Well, let me say this. This is what the old people used to say. It ain't no fun when the rabbits got the gun. So people don't like it until they're the one receiving that favor that they didn't deserve. So I absolutely love nepotism. I will use it until the end of time if it's going to benefit my children or people that I know or that I can help make their life better. Um, why struggle more if you don't have to?
I
I
would
mean, it's
agree.
literally how the world works. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
I would agree. And
Fine with
nepotism,
it. And it's giving them an opportunity to make history.
right? Yeah. And
So I
I
like
like I
it. I
said,
like it.
I love it, like it. Talked to a lot of people, and it was mixed reviews about this. And to be honest, I would just say work hard, put yourself in a position, and you can use nepotism. Nepotism happens a lot. If you go out and research, and I've researched nepotism, nepotism happens a lot.
It's
It-
everywhere,
it-
absolutely. Across every career, it's everywhere.
but
Absolutely.
it doesn't happen here in America as much as people think. We don't have a we don't have a systemic issue with nepotism here. And when we say nepotism, we're talking about like high paying jobs because no one cares if you get your child on making fries at McDonald's. Like, ain't nobody gonna complain about that. We're
Right.
not. We're talking about the higher paying jobs. But if you go and do the
Yeah, the
research,
job that you couldn't get on your own
right?
anyway.
But if you
Yeah,
go and do the research, countries like Australia, New Zealand, they have higher nepotism rates. So the United States is not in the top of that. So people complain too much. And look, I used to be anti nepotism 20 years ago. I am 100% nepotism. I need to get a shirt that says that 100% in on nepotism.
hmm absolutely. I agree. So while we're talking about sports, though, I did want to bring up that the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics, or the NAIA, which oversees more than 83,000 athletes and is mainly at smaller colleges. Shout out Xavier University. They were NAIA of Louisiana. Don't be confused. The HBCU New Orleans, baby. But they rolled out a new policy that bans transgender women from competing in women's sports, making it the first major college sport governing body in the U.S. to do so. Thoughts
Um,
on that?
I'm for it. This is one of those issues that there is no easy solution. People are naive to think there's just a simple solution. There is not. It's a complex issue that has many layers. But you can support a group of people and actually at the same time not support what they're trying to do. And let me just unpackage that. So
Agreed.
I support transgender athletes. I support anyone being what they think is their right self. But I don't support a man that transitions into a woman competing against women. I use myself for example. I haven't played basketball in competitive uh, on a competitive level in years, but I technically have NCAA um, a- um, eligibility to play. I never played in college, so I think based on the rules, I could go back, register as a grad student, or get another undergraduate degree. And let's say I want to transition as a woman, and I compete against women. Um, I could dominate some women, a lot of women, especially at the NAIA level. 5'10", I'm quick. Don't jump as high anymore, but physically, I would have uh, just natural strength. I would have an advantage. I don't think I'd be the greatest
We're
woman
gonna
player.
post footage, viewers.
Uh,
We're gonna post footage of him playing.
I probably could get 20 points a game. I might get 25 points a game, and that's not putting down the women that compete at the NAIA level. I just don't think it's fair. And I think
Agree.
going into 2025, realistically, we have to figure this out because it isn't going anywhere. And it's not a lot of athletes. I think some people make you believe that this is again, another systemic issue that's happening
Mhm.
all across America, every school district, every sports league. It's just a small group or a small sample size of people that are impacted by this. We have to figure something out. And
And
I'm okay with their ruling.
I think that it's exactly what you said earlier. People are lumping the two situations into one thing, and they're not. People are taking it as if you don't support, trans people playing in the opposite genders, sport, that you don't support trans people, and that is
Yeah.
not the same. And so that's a very good point. I personally don't think they should be able to compete because you rarely see naturally born women
Good
wanting
point.
to now compete in male sports. And the reason being is because just genetically, biologically, physically, a man dominates over a woman when it comes to strength, agility, speed, all those things. Not to say that there's not outliers, but the reason why is it would not benefit you to do that. It only benefits a person that is naturally born male to now go into a female sport. So I have no problem with the ruling. And you can actually see that, I believe it was a swimmer, can't remember the name, but it was a swimmer that was not ranking at all in the male league. And then once they were allowed to compete,
Leah Thomas or
yeah.
Thompson or something, yeah.
Once they were allowed to compete in women's sports, they started dominating. They started getting first place at every meet. That's evidence that just biologically and genetically, you identify more closely with one gender than another. Well,
Right.
very good. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that ruling either. But let's talk about the big stories that may happen in 2025. One of them that I'm for sure will have some type of shenanigans or be all over every news outlet is Trump's inauguration, um,
Oh,
January 20th, in a few
yeah.
weeks.
Oh, yeah. I think it's January the 25th, 2025.
It's the
I
20th or
think
25th.
the 20th. The 20th.
Mm.
I predict something that's not the norm, something that doesn't follow the normal presidential inauguration protocol is going to happen, and it's going to have a lot of people in their feelings. I'm not saying it's going to be something bad. It's going to be something different. Elon Musk
Mhm.
is definitely probably going to be there, and you might see those little Optimus robots walking up the steps and being a part of the inauguration. I actually would like that personally. If Trump flies
Well,
in on with like a drone, like a little drone, personal drone, one man craft flies in on something like that, and it drops him off on stage. I would love it personally, but I predict something that goes against the norms is going to happen, and people are going to be all in their feelings for a couple of months, starting out
well,
in
let me
20.
tell you what I predict. I
What's that?
predict I'm going to be in my satin jammies up under the covers, not
You're
watching
not,
anything and not being
you're
at
not
work amongst any of the antics.
you're not going to watch.
Absolutely not. I'll let you watch. You can tell me all about it the next day.
Well, the way social media goes, you don't even have to watch it. You can just watch the clips on Facebook, and it's like
Hmm.
you watch the whole thing. But hey, I predict something's gonna happen. Something's
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
something's gonna.
Hopefully nothing bad happens. No,
Yeah,
no mass casualties or anything. We've
no,
just seen too much of that tragedy. So
I don't think
hopefully
anything.
nothing like that. Other top stories, it's kind of already been in the news, but it's not going to really play out or not play out until um, upcoming President Trump gets back in office. But big immigration decisions and policies. We've seen a little bit of it in the media so far, but I definitely think that's going to be big news in 2025.
So the thing that I think it's going to be very interesting is that President Trump, that was one of his key campaign things, fixing immigration, dealing with immigration. Um, the Republicans control the White House, Congress, and the Senate. For at least the next 2 years, they have all the control. So, whatever the agenda that they have and the mandate that the people have that they want them to do, they got a blank slate. They should be able to do it. So, it'll be interesting. I think some type of immigration policy will be passed. I'm curious to see what's actually passed, what's done, and what happens. It's going to be very interesting. At least I guarantee that 50% of the country will be happy. 50% of the country will be pissed off. Whatever
Mhm.
happens.
And some of the people that think they're going to be happy when they see how it affects their business, their labor costs, all of those things, they might not be too happy for too long. I'll
But
say that.
Yeah, but there are some things that universally can be fixed. I just don't like how it's politicized. Like a lot of things in
Uh-huh.
America, it's politicized. I hate that aspect of it.
All right. Well, more upcoming news on P. Diddy, Jay Z, and any other alleged predator that may pop out in the news. I definitely think that'll be coming up more in 2025. Well, at least with Diddy, I'll say that that's gonna be coming up more. Jay Z might fade into the background a little bit. We might not hear too much more about him for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I do think more is coming on the Diddy side, and you're probably going to hear other names because supposedly in the Jay Z rape allegation, there was a female present. For whatever reason, that female's name has not been released. So
And y'all better not utter the queen's name.
you're going to hear other names, other people, but one of the things I will say, and I'm no legal expert, and I would love someone, whoever watches this podcast, if you can answer this question. At what point, when you charge someone or you have these allegations against them, do you have to start making these names of these individuals and these things public? I'm kind of
Right.
burnt out on it, and I'm tired of hearing, well, this unknown celebrity, this unknown person, this Jane Doe won, this anonymous person won, and this and this and this. And legally, at some point, don't you have to make this stuff public to people? So
And
when
I say that jokingly, saying don't utter the queen's name. But I say that because when even for again, we're not saying it's true or not true, but when people come forward with these allegations, when they're not true, there's certain people that have power, control, money, all those things that can, sue you for defamation. That, it can just change the trajectory of your life. Not to say, don't lie on anybody, famous or not famous. Let me just leave it there. Don't lie on anybody. Tell the truth. If it's your truth that it happened to you, tell that truth. And if something like that did not happen to you, then don't say that either.
that is true.
Okay, so back to speaking of money, LeBron James, is he going to retire soon, do you think? Is that a possible news story of 2025?
I think whenever it drops, it's going to be a big story. He just turned 40 right before the end of the year. I think he's on year 22. I can remember watching LeBron James' first game against the Sacramento Kings way back. I believe I had just got out of undergraduate school. So back in
Mhm.
maybe '03, '01, or '01 or '02, something like that. I don't know. I done lost track of the years. But I can see it potentially happening. Like I said, whenever it happens, it's going to be a big story. If I'm LeBron, I would probably retire this year. I mean, there's nothing more that he can prove. I actually think by playing, you give people that are against you, you give them an opportunity to take shots at you and poke holes in your career and why you shouldn't be the GOAT. I personally think he's right there with Michael Jordan, and sometimes I'll say he is the GOAT. But I do think when you play longer, you let people take shots at you. And there's a lot of guys in the league and other sports commentators who will just take shots at them, for playing for selfish reasons. You know,
Mhm. Well, all right. And finally, these grocery prices. We always joke, and I say we have the hungriest kids in America because our kids always need a snack. They get in the car, they need a snack. They walk to the mailbox, they need a snack.
for
And
sure.
we've noticed, how high these grocery prices are. So,
Your mother
if
did that.
these grocery prices do not come down fast enough, who will take the blame? What story do you think is going to come out in 2025?
I personally predict that they won't go down fast enough. I don't know who takes the blame. Politically, Republicans they control everything. They control the Congress, the Senate, and the White House. the political parties in control should take the blame. But I'm smart enough to know that inflation is much bigger than who is in the White House or who controls the Congress or
Mhm.
the Senate. It's a bigger problem, but it's going to be interesting, how long people will wait to start pointing the finger into this new year, 2020, 2025, when grocery prices don't, let's say by June, there's not a significant drop in grocery prices. See who they're going
Mhm.
to point their finger at. It's going to be very, very, very interesting.
Well, I hope they will go down, or our kids' appetites will go down because these groceries are insane.
We can always just do bread, milk, and water. I think we can get by on that. It won't be the most appetizing meals, but we can get by on that. But thank you all for listening to our podcast, our review of the big stories of 2024 and stories that or things that we think may happen or that's coming down the line in 2025. Make sure you like and subscribe and share this podcast episode with someone you know and get them to subscribe. But until next time, peace. Let me get that peace sign right there. And thank you, my lovely wife, for joining me on this podcast. Hopefully, you'll join me on some more podcasts. But
Thank you for having me.
bye.
All right. Bye bye.